Hello again from my front porch, where I am sitting here in the nice, warm, sunshiny heat of my front porch with a chip on my shoulder. That's right, I have a chip on my shoulder. A Pringles chip to be exact. Sour cream and onion. Not supposed to talk with food in your mouth. So anyway, the reason I was sitting here with a chip on my shoulder is a couple of reasons. One, because I'm just weird and I like doing weird stuff. But also because I was in a discussion with somebody online and I got accused of having a chip on my shoulder regarding the topic being discussed. And I thought, well, that's not true. That's not because, having a chip on your shoulder implies, and then I stopped there and I recognized that the other individual actually had misused the term. In the context of other comments they made, what they were really trying to say was that I was trying to be a know-it-all, which I was not, but clearly I knew more than them because I did know enough to know that they had not used the right phrase. Oh, the irony. And I oftentimes, on that topic, I oftentimes will be in a conversation where somebody will accuse me of acting like I know everything or that I know it all. And the truth is, I do not know it all, and I know I don't know it all. But what I do know is that when I hear or see something that's like, well, that's interesting, my first reaction is to research it, to validate it, to look it up, not to just turn around and respond to it or share it, as a lot of people do. This individual in particular. And so I was coming at them from the vantage point of saying, hey, excuse me, have you considered this? Have you considered that? Have you looked into all these details? Facts. But nothing can mess up an emotional, passionate rant than somebody coming in with facts. That is so annoying. And that's kind of what I was doing. And I got to tell you, there is the ornery part of me that when I'm talking with somebody, especially on social media, and I figure out that they really don't know why they're saying what they're saying, they don't even fully understand what they're even saying. They're just regurgitating something that they saw somebody else said or sharing what somebody else posted. And because they thought it sounded really good and really cool, they just put it back out there. Well, then you push back with facts and very quickly they're out of their element because they can't back up what they have just said or shared. And so there are times, I will admit, that when I figure out that is the situation with the person I'm talking to, yeah, I may toy with them a bit. I may just... It's the little things in life. But in this particular case, that's not what I was doing. I literally was just trying to point out some fact related to some vague and broad and, in my opinion, kind of absurd generalities that this individual had shared. And so I was trying to respond with, well, now let's talk about the context of this. Let's talk about the fact that's going on here. Obviously, they didn't appreciate the educational opportunity that I was giving them, and not only did they not appreciate that, but they proceeded to push back on me to tell me that I was wrong. Now, again, I don't believe that I am right 100% of the time, but what I do know is when I see something that I don't know or understand, I take time to research it and find out the facts before I comment. And now, I didn't always used to be that way. There certainly was a time in my life when I was the passionate, emotional, rah! And I would take something that I heard or something that had been given to me, and I would run with it without really exploring it, really checking into it. I have matured beyond that point, and part of that was also because I was very partisan politically to one side at the time, and so that meant that I was fairly gullible, also that I was willing to just accept everything my side said and assume that everything the other side said was wrong. But again, I've matured beyond that too, where now I recognize there's plenty of wrong on both sides, but there's also some good on both sides too. Unfortunately, not as much good as there is wrong, but that's a whole other matter. Anyway, back to the topic. This concept of being accused of having a chip on your shoulder, the individual who then fired that at me clearly intended it to be an insult, a put down to me, to get me to back off, to get me to try to label me in such a way that now I'm damaged goods, and anything I say from that point on is not going to have as much relevance because, well, I'm only saying it because I have a chip on my shoulder. But I got thinking, well, why not? Wait a minute. Am I misunderstanding what the term is? And so, just to verify, I looked it up, just like I keep saying I like to do. And the truth is, the phrase originally is said to have originated back in the 1700s with the shipbuilders, and they made their ships out of wood and stuff. And at the end of the day, some of I think they're called the millwrights, but the guys who built the ships, they'd take home some of the pieces of wood that were left over. And oftentimes it was as much as they could carry. They would take home and they would find use for it at their homes. But because this became such a common practice, it became financially a problem for the shipbuilders because it meant some good materials might leave. And so they had to start cracking down on how much of this wood you carried home. And for whatever reason, it was termed the chips on your shoulder. Now, that's a great story, but how does that translate to? Well, at some point in time, probably when the phrase came to the United States, it turned into an invitation for a fight. That's when somebody having a face-off with someone else would put a chip on their shoulder, a poker chip or an actual wooden chip or something they would put on their shoulder, and they would dare you to knock this off my shoulder. Come here and knock this off my shoulder. It's stupid. It's elementary school playground, and yet there are a lot of guys especially who never quite mature out of that. And so that's what it became. It became this, come and knock this chip off my shoulder. And the concepts merged of you having a chip on your shoulder and this aggressive posturing with a chip on your shoulder, so that now what we really understand the term to mean, how it really should be used, is to say you have a personal grievance in this situation. You are invested in some way. Another comparable phrase would be that you have an axe to grind in this scenario, and that which would then imply that your motivation for offering your input is driven by your personal viewpoint, which is passionate and aggressive in some cases. Now, that was absolutely not a description of what I was doing, what I was saying. So still, I believe that the individual, even though I wasn't trying to be a know-it-all, I believe the individual was misusing that term. Now, I didn't get into that with them at that point in time. In fact, it just got to a point where they were running in circles, kind of chasing their tail, and kept moving the goalposts. They would throw out some argument, I would address it with facts, and then they'd what if and go somewhere else. And I was like, I'm done with this conversation. But the concept of a chip on your shoulder, if I have a chip on my shoulder, is that a bad thing? No, it's a bad thing for the chip. What a waste of a chip. Got a bigger bite than I intended. But it's bad for the chip, it's another, but is it really bad to have a chip on your shoulder? It's a good question. And the answer is, it depends. Now, if you have a chip on your shoulder that causes you to be stubborn and stiff-necked, and you will not even listen to what anyone else is saying because this is driving everything that you think and everything you believe and everything you spew, then that is a problem. And sadly, a lot of people live their life exactly that way. And you find most of them on social media. But what if you have a chip on your shoulder And that chip is what drives you. It's what drives you to pursue what you are passionate about. This is something that you are aggressively wanting to promote and push. That's where an activist would come in play. Now, there are some activists who are a bit loony, that they go way off the deep end in their cause and do stupid things, say stupid things. That's not who I'm talking about. I'm talking about just somebody who really develops a focus on a cause. That cause, to them, has a very deep personal meaning. And they have their life, but when it comes to this cause, they focus in on that. They zero in on that, and they will go toe to toe with anybody who wants to block or not support that cause. It's not necessarily a bad thing. In that case, having that chip on your shoulder, could be to your credit. It could actually be what helps you ultimately achieve that goal. Because if you approach trying to push and promote a goal without having that level of intensity, you may not actually get it done. It may not ever happen. And in fact, when I think back over individuals who have led strong change movements, I'm guessing a lot of them at one time or another were told, you just have a chip on your shoulder, or an axe to grind, or whatever cliche you wanted to use. But that there were those who tried to dismiss them in the same way of getting them to be labeled, getting them to be restricted, getting them to be silenced because, I'm just going to dismiss you because you just have a chip on your shoulder. And the response should have been, you better believe I do. Well, there you go. There is your thought for the day. And look, that's all that's left, that chip. A little nugget. Fortunately, the first one, much bigger piece. Actually, it's okay. I have a whole little can here. So I'm gonna go enjoy the chips not on my shoulder. And I will see you all next time. Hold on. Try to talk with food in my mouth. I'm afraid the little pieces are going to start falling out. And that would just be gross. So now that I can say it without worrying about spitting a big chunk of chip on the camera, I will see you all next time from my front porch.